Hey, fighters! Welcome to episode number 479. Today's episode is extra special because I am not alone behind the mic on this episode. I have invited three of my favorite homestead moms to join me for a roundtable conversation. Now, if you've been hanging around for a while and listening to the podcast, then you are familiar with our roundtable episodes. But between all four of us, we've got kids in school, homeschooling, volleyball practice, gardens bursting at the seams, freezers filling up, praise the good Lord, and a whole lot of everyday homesteading going on. Plus, some of us have aging parents that we're helping to take care of, multi-generations in the home, as well as work. And just like you, we know the struggle of that dreaded 5 p.m. moment. You know it when you're staring at the fridge and you're like, I don't know what's for dinner tonight. So in this episode, we are pulling back the curtain and we're going to share our best real life tips for getting nourished from scratch meals on the table. We're going to be sharing what type of meal planning we do and what works for us. And the great thing about having the four of us there is you are going to find a system and a tip between the four of us that really works for you and your personality. So if you are a non-traditional meal planner like myself, you will definitely relate. But if you're somebody who definitely is like, I like having a written meal plan in place, then you're going to love Michelle's tips. We're talking about how to not have takeout guilt or spend all day in the kitchen. So you're going to learn what works in our homes, how we adapt when things don't go as planned. If you've been on a homestead for any amount of time, you know that that can happen often, and why foundational kitchen skills really truly do make all of the difference. So pour yourself a cup of coffee or tea, pull up a chair or take us out on the road with you or out into the garden and join us as we share practical strategies that keep dinner on the table, even in the busiest seasons of life, which for many of us is right now. Okay. Well, I'll just start us off with my I still remember this and it's laughable now, but I feel like surely I'm not alone. And if I am, then you guys can all laugh and pat my head because I'm not there anymore. So there is hope. But I remember as a newlywed, wanting I cooked a lot what I thought was cooking from scratch, but I would have a struggle because we've always lived really far out rurally. So if I don't have an ingredient, if our little local grocery store is open and carries it, then it's like a 15-minute drive to get there. So not too bad. It's like a half an hour drive time minimum and that. But then if they don't have it, I have to go to like the bigger stores like Costco's or Fred Meyer's, that type of thing. It's an hour one way to get there. So it's not like if you don't have an ingredient, you could just hop to the store, and we still don't have fresh grocery delivery where I live. So that's not an option either. I know if you live in the city and take advantage of that, like that might sound kind of funny, but it's just not an option, which is been a blessing on my forcing us to cook from scratch and just not having that available. But I still remember that there was this recipe I wanted to make. There was two different ones, and one of them used a cake mix, and I didn't have any cake mixes on hand. And so I was like, well, I just can't make this recipe. And I remember driving over. So we did have at that time, it's been shut down sadly now for like 10 years, but we had a little local gas station that was like 5 minutes from our house. And they had a really small little grocery section. And so I was like, oh, maybe they'll have a cake mix. I think it was a vanilla cake mix of all the things that I needed. So I went over there and they did not have a vanilla cake mix. And so the little owner of the grocery store, she was so sweet. Her name was Mary. And I'm like, oh, you don't have it. And she's like, well, honey, what are you looking for? And I told her, I said, well, I want to make this dessert and it calls for a vanilla cake mix, but I don't have one and you guys don't have one and I don't want to go all the way into town for it. And she's like, she was an older gal at that time. And she's like, well, she's like, honey, you don't have to have a cake mix to make a vanilla cake. And I'm like, but I don't know how to make one without a cake mix. And she's like, I've got a recipe book downstairs. Let me just go down and photocopy the recipe for you. You just wait right here. So she leaves me alone in her entire store. I mean, I was honest, obviously, and wouldn't have stole from her. But like, she just leaves me upstairs. She goes down and she photocopies it and she brings it up and she gives me it. And I was like, oh, like, why have I been buying a mix for this all these years? Like, this is basic. It's not hard. And so I went home, and so for there evermore, then I never bought a vanilla cake mix anymore. But at that time, like cooking was really hard because if I didn't have what I thought this ingredient was, I'm like, oh, I can't make this recipe. And the same thing, there was like a casserole I wanted to make, and it used cornbread as part of the topping, and I didn't have the Jiffy cornbread mix, and so like it kind of just got repeated until I realized, oh, you can totally make all of these from scratch, and it's really not that hard, but it greatly frees you up from being able to make all of these different dishes and not being tied to, oh no, I don't have like this XYZ on hand, because you don't have to have it on hand once you know how to actually foundationally cook. So I don't know, for me that was like a huge shift, and like also a big myth was like, oh, you have to have these exact ingredients in order to have a recipe turn out, which now I know is not true, that there's tons of ways that you can alter recipes and have them still turn out really great. But back in the day, I thought you had to follow it like to a T. I don't know, what have been your guys' some of your misconceptions on cooking from scratch, or like some of the kind of myth type things?
Well, for me, growing up, we always had like the box scalloped potatoes, the box stovetop stuffing, um, the what were they called? Oh, hamburger helpers.
Oh,
Like
yes.
that's what I grew up on.
Yeah.
And so when I got out on my own, I thought that you had to have that in order to have a meal. Like especially like the scalloped potatoes, because they're like dehydrated potatoes, or I'm assuming they're dehydrated. And you have the mix, and you just cook it all together. And I always thought, well, I don't know how to do that from scratch. I didn't realize that you could actually just use real potatoes.
Amen.
And cheese and milk.
Cheese, right, right. I mean, honestly, I was probably in my 30s that it actually dawned on me, like, duh, you can actually do this on your own without buying it from a box, and it's going to be healthier. So yeah, just like learning that you don't have to use all those boxes, and it's still good, and it doesn't take very much time.
You know what's funny is that I'm hearing you both, and like as a little girl, I always wanted hamburger helper. Like I wanted
Yeah,
the
Sophie, the same.
sausage.
My mom wouldn't let it in the house because she always cooked from scratch. And
But
the only time we got it is if we went camping because we were camping and it was easier for her just to buy that was like a special treat.
yes, it was like I was envious of kids who had the hamburger helper. Like, wasn't it like the glove?
Yes.
Yeah, the animated glove. You're right. On TV, the
Yes.
commercial. Yes. Yes.
I think we're
Oh,
dating ourselves,
marketing.
but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess to answer your question, I always thought that cooking from scratch, even though my mom cooked it from scratch, it would take all day. And she did take all day. And so when I what was in my 30s and I had my first kid, I said, "Mom, like if you're going to show me how to cook, it needs to be really quick." And I said, "I want to cook traditional food, but I don't want to spend all day in the kitchen, like work full time." So she taught me some hacks.
Yeah, I was really lucky because my mom, she was home with us till I was in sixth grade, but then she went to work, but she still cooked from scratch. But a lot of it was, things like casseroles and stews and things that you can slow cook and braise that you can put in before you go to work, and then it's ready when you get home. But yeah, I have to agree that was like a special treat, and always wanted to try it. It just looks so good, and then when you do try it, it was like, oh well, it's okay.
Well, and it's funny because my mom did cook a lot from scratch, but she was primarily a stay-at-home mom. And so, she had part of me, I don't want to say the luxury, but she was at home. And so she could cook everything from scratch, and she could take all day if she wanted to. I mean, and she had lots of other things that she did. So when I got out on my own and Clay and I got married and I was working full time at the pharmacy, I thought that to cook from scratch, you had to have so much time and able to be able to do it, and like that you needed to have hours. And I thought that like using those mixes and stuff that it was faster and it was easier, that like making those items from scratch was really complicated or was going to take all of this time. And then when I started to realize, for health reasons and also really convenience wise for us, was like, I want to be able to make these recipes without having to go 2 hours to the store because I don't have it. I was like, some of this is actually faster to make, or just as fast to make from scratch. It actually doesn't take longer, and it's really not that hard, especially once you learn how to do it like once or twice.
Yeah,
And
it
I
tastes
remember,
better.
and it tastes better. I remember being so surprised. Like the first time I was like, we're no longer, and that was for health, when I was really dialing health after having the biopsy of my esophagus and upper stomach, and was changing out and really looking at ingredients and really, really digging in deep, a lot deeper than I had been. And so one of the things was no condensed cream of soups. And like Rachel, to your point, I did use the slow cooker a lot. And that was even before the Instapot, dating myself. Like, I remember life before that baby came out. And so it was a lot of, you would put cream of different soups in, a lot of these different casseroles or in the slow cooker to make these dishes. And I remember I'm like, nope, I'm not using those anymore. They have, the hydrogenated oils, the GMO oils, the soy, all these different things that I don't want to consume anymore. And so I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to make these recipes? And so I remember the first time I made a homemade cream of soup replacement, and it literally took me 4 minutes. And I put it in, and I'm like, oh man, like I hope it holds up to slow cooking all day, because I'm not going to be here to see if it starts to ruin or not. Like if it goes south, I'm not here to fix it till we get home. And I remember when I came home and like we ate that recipe for the first time that did not have store-bought condensed soup in it. And I was floored at how much better the flavor was. The texture was all the same. And I was like, it took me 4 minutes from start to finish to make. Like, why did I think, like, why have we thought it's so hard that everybody just has to buy this so you can pot? Like, it's so fast. And I felt like that with almost every replacement item has been very similar to that. Like maybe not 4 minutes on some of them. That one was like legit time to finish was 4 minutes. But I've been shocked at like, how is it we bought into this lie? And
Because
myself has bought into it.
all through the 70s and 80s, starting in the 60s, and all of us were pretty much born 70s. I think, Sophie, you might be early 80s.
81.
Oh, sorry, Melissa. 80. Oh, excuse me. All of us, we grew up. That was marketing. That was really good. I mean, Sophie, you're our director of marketing. That was really good marketing. And they made us all believe that this is the best. And they targeted housewives that, oh, you want more time? So you have time for yourself and to do all the things you want. Here, this is much faster. But they left off all the bit about here, well, it'll give you cancer and make you sick and stomach problems. But they knew how to market.
Yeah, and I actually think it was from the inception of the microwave. I think that's what's really ruined it for us. And then, those frozen dinners with the plastic wrap on it.
Oh, that was, yes, those were special treats when the babysitter came, le menu. And I used to save the little circle plates. That was like, I thought that was so cool.
That was part of our meals often when we were kids. I forgot about those.
Do you remember the
they were
menu
awful
with the
too.
plate? I
remember the Hungry Man, and that was like, if mom, for some reason, like once a year, my mom would go to her sisters, my aunts. Most of the time I went with her, but there would be like a few times where she wouldn't be home. And so that's what Dad and I would get. We'd go over to the little Rockport gas station store again, and we would get those. And I would get so excited because you could pick the one that had the apple pie or the cobbler or the brownie for dessert. And yeah, because they were a novelty. Like we never got them. So it felt super special, even though to your point, like they didn't actually taste that good. But
yeah. It's been interesting living with my mom because that's how she cooked. That's how she really has cooked most of her life, is like the convenience things. And I'll give you an example. She makes it's like a tuna bake, and it's actually really good. And the recipe calls for Bisquick for the topping. So that's what she knows to do.
Right.
And when she moved in with us, I said, no, we don't use Bisquick. You have to make your own biscuit dough. So That was a hard thing. And in fact, she made it last night. And I had made up a jar of the biscuit mix that's in one of the lessons for our upcoming course. And I said, use that instead of making up some more dough. And she did, and it turned out great. And it was so
Wait,
easy for her.
is that,
It was like Bisquick, but it was just in a jar that was homemade.
and
And
that's going to
saved a
be
ton
in
of
the
money.
that's in the upcoming kitchen course?
Yes, it is.
Okay, oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's that each person has to realize that, right? Like, oh, I can actually make these from scratch, which to some people, if you were raised doing from scratch, you've been doing it for a while, you're like, oh, that's not this novelty thing. But for a lot of people, it is. There's usually certain items that you're like, oh, you're still grabbing from the store, or you're not necessarily making from scratch. I feel like it takes, at least for me, like it took a while for me to get to that point where there wasn't anything. But then once you're there and it's kind of part of your routine, you're like, oh my goodness, like this is so much more frugal. It
Mhm.
tastes better. It is definitely better for you. And it really doesn't take that much more time. Not nearly as much time as the marketing would have you believe.
Right. And I feel like I'm still teaching my mom like all of this, including substitutions. Like, what could she use if we don't have something?
But what's cool is you're teaching the previous generation where you didn't get
I
that, but
know.
now you've learned it, Michelle, and now you're handing it back to her,
I'm
which
handing it to her
is
and my daughter
exactly, which
at the
is
same
really
time.
cool. And you're bridging that gap that where it was lost. And that's a really
Yes.
beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, the substitutions is something that is really exciting for me because I always felt like, okay, you have to have like a tub of sour cream or you have to have a tub of yogurt. And if the recipe calls for yogurt or sour cream, you can't swap it out, right? But now it's realizing that, yeah, I can use Greek yogurt if I don't have sour cream, and I can use other things if I have what is it? Someone gave me a tip the other day. They said that, oh, they aren't able to buy organic whole yogurt at like Costco, for example. So they're using just the non-fat, but then adding the sour cream to add the fat back into it. And I'm like, this is fascinating.
Yeah. Or you can add some extra butter. I mean, like if you
Right.
have a low fat or a non-fat and the recipe calls for, and the fat content is going to, is critical to the way it would turn out, which in baking, I feel is more so than like kind of regular cooking. But yeah,
Yeah.
you can add some butter so that you're getting that fat content in there, even if you have low fat milk or
Yeah.
2% or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's fun too when making bread, we can add the byproduct of the dairy, like the whey or the yogurt that goes into the sourdough, which whenever I'm serving it to the family, I'm like, you have to enjoy this. You can't buy this bread anywhere. But it's just so much more satisfying when you're making it from scratch and it doesn't take that much more effort.
Well, one of the things that I feel like for a lot of folks that gets to be a struggle is having, it's dinner time. Because I feel like with breakfast and lunch, at least in our house, like those are things where you can, cook an egg for breakfast, or I'll make up like egg bites ahead of time for the week. And, lunch can be leftovers or a sandwich. And I'm not saying you can't have breakfast or a sandwich for dinner every now and then. Like that's completely fine. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is actually breakfast for dinner is like a special thing. But overall, like most of us, or maybe it's just the way, I don't know, I was growing up, like having a hot meal that wasn't just a sandwich at dinner time was like really important. Like it was the staple meal that everybody came together as a family to eat and that type of thing. And so we still feel like that even with our house. Like we want a meal at dinner time. And I used to really struggle with the idea of a meal planning and menu planning, because once you start cooking from scratch, the meat has to be thawed out ahead of time, especially when I wasn't working from home, when I was at the pharmacy, because a lot of times I wouldn't actually get back home till between like 6:30 and 7 p.m. at night. And so if I didn't have it in the slow cooker or in the Instapot or something like that, or something that you could do in like 25 minutes, like I'm just browning taco meat or something, like, you can be eating at 9, 10 o'clock at night, which is ridiculous when you have little kids. So I tried the menu and the meal planning, and with my personality, like I wanted it to work so bad where I would have everything planned out for the month. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I could just get 2 weeks. And then I'm like, if I could just get 1 week. But the menu planning stressed me out. I could never routinely stick to it. And I finally just gave up. But what made the difference for me, and this is where I'm really eager to hear each of your guys' parts, because I think the key part is knowing your personality and what's going to naturally work with your ebb and flow and the way that you think and do things, instead of trying to cram your personality into the way somebody else would do something. So for me, I have found if I just know what's for dinner for like the next 2 to 3 nights, then, and also even just the main protein, that now that I've got some really good foundational cooking basics, and I don't have to use a recipe, like I can look and be like, okay, we've got this protein and I've got these vegetables that need to be used up. Great. I'm going to turn this into XYZ. I feel like that has freed up so much and I don't stress anymore. And even if I don't know what's for dinner, by having that stocked pantry and knowing how to use those individual ingredients, I don't it's like a non-issue anymore. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like I know that I can have something on the table that's nourishing and tastes good in like 30 minutes without having to do extensive menu planning. Just because I've realized that it's never going to work for me. I'm always fighting trying to use that method. So I'm curious about for you guys, like if you've had kind of like, oh, this is what kind of finally turned the tables for me, even if it's completely different from mine, which I know some of yours is going to be.
I don't know who that is.
Well,
Michelle.
Well, I operate in the same way as you, Melissa, where I tried to do the menu planning. I even asked Michelle for advice when she was over. But yeah, it does feel exactly like you said. It feels like I'm fighting against like my own personality, because I think that what works for me is if I can get the meat, the protein is my priority. If I can get that protein thawed out once a week and I just grab everything from the deep freezers, all of our vegetables have been turned into ferments at this point. So I'm getting a little bit smarter in that I don't even want to see it go bad and just sit there anymore. I have about like 12 different ferments that are just sitting in the fridge. And that takes off a load of stress for me, thinking about which vegetable complements which protein. Because now it's you get your ferment, you can pick whichever one you want. And then it just pairs with the protein. And for our carb or our starch, for really the few people in the family that want it, I'll soak the rice. We eat rice, so we'll soak the rice at night. And that's when I clean up the kitchen and everything. And that's the last thing I do. I set it aside. And when I cook it, I have a new way to just cook it in the steamer, set it on for 30 minutes. I don't think otherwise. And then when it's done, we have dinner within to your point, like 15 to 20 minutes. But that's just the flow that works for us. It's that we can still provide food at the table.
Well, Michelle, you're the very organized one of us, which I admire. And I have tried so hard and asked Michelle for advice, but same thing, my personality, it just does not fit. So I have to say, for me, like Sophie was saying and Melissa was saying, having just protein, I take it out once a week. It's all in the fridge. And then that's my creative outlet, is cooking. I like to just open the doors of the fridge, see what's there, and go, oh, I'm going to make this tonight. But as long as I have a protein there to use, there's always other stuff. But the biggest thing for me is having a well-stocked pantry. As long as it's well-stocked, I can always make something. And like you were saying, in 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you can have, having canned tuna and chicken and beef, whether you buy it at the store, whether you can it yourself. Having it on the shelf, it just makes for really fast meals. And having that pantry stocked with pasta and rice, like you were saying, Sophie, and different kinds of items, everything you need staple-wise, that you can just pull it together really quick.
So
Okay, now
clearly
Michelle
I'm
gets to go, and she's like feeling odd man out. But a lot of people are
yes.
going to identify, and I think that's the important part,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah,
to realize what's your natural tendencies, and then lean hard into those to make it work for you.
absolutely. So for me, if I didn't have a plan, if it was more loose, like you guys are able to operate under, it would stress me out to the max. I have to have a plan. I have to know, what are we doing today? So that, and I think part of it comes down to, you make so many decisions throughout the day. By the time dinner time hits, I don't want to make another decision. So if I already have the plan, I already know what I'm doing. That's one less decision I have to make in that day. So for me, we have a routine where we plan the menu every Sunday night after dinner. As a family, we do it because I'm not the only one that cooks. So we have to have a plan. And my daughter has a schedule that varies. Of course, I work full time, but I work in the house. My mom doesn't work. And my husband, he works part time out of the house and 2 days of the week in the house. So we kind of develop a plan based on who's available when and what's on the calendar. So my life now, as opposed to when my daughter was a child, is completely different. There's more flexibility now. I mean, there's 4 adults in the house, first of all. Before, it was just the 2 adults. And she would play soccer. She was in 4-H. So she had all of these activities. So I would look at the calendar and determine, okay, when is her soccer game? What time do we have to be there? And invariably, a lot of them always happen during dinner time. So you're either beforehand or after. And if it's after, well, now you want something really quick. It's either that or you're going to the fast food line, which we really didn't want to do because it's not that good for you. And it can be expensive over time, right?
Yeah.
So, we just developed a plan that worked really well for us by meal planning. So we would know, like in the morning, do I need to put something in the slow cooker before I leave for work? Or are we just going to have scrambled eggs and a side vegetable and toast for dinner? And I'll be honest, there were a lot of times that's what we did. It was just that easy because we just didn't have the time or the energy. That's the other thing. Some days I just don't feel like cooking. So we'll just say, all right, let's grab an eggs because it's so easy to make. But we also have a list of options that are fairly easy to make and quick. Something like tacos. Now, but this is our newest toy, and we've probably had it a few years now, the sous vide. So, I mean, you just throw the protein in there and let it cook. It's not going to burn.
Right.
So, however long, even if it's longer than it's recommended, it's still not going to burn. So, it turns out great. And it's great if you forget to thaw your meat because it'll thaw it. Just like if you're using the Instant Pot, just put it in there. So for me, meal planning works really, really well for our family, and in the past for what we were dealing with as far as Alexis's activities and stuff.
And I think, like Melissa said, is you have to lean into what works for you. Because we also, all three of us, so admire Michelle and her planning. And she's amazing at it. And we've all tried, but it's just not our personalities. And I think so each individual, what works for you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And and not to compare that to somebody else's.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the key is, regardless if you're more flying by the seat of your pants like the 3 of us, or you're very much more structured and planned out like Michelle, the key is really having a well-stocked pantry and then knowing how to cook those things from scratch, regardless if you have planned it out like you do, Michelle, weekly, or where you're kind of flying. Those basics are the same. It's more the execution that is slightly changing.
Yeah.
And so if you would like help with that, we are doing a special live training class completely free on September 8th that's going to go over what to have in your pantry and implementing these systems no matter which way you happen to fly. So you can go to melissaknorris.com/kitchen and you'll see the registration page there. Again, completely free. It's going to be really fun. And we're going to have some special handouts you're going to want to get your hands on only if you show up live to the class. So if you're looking for ways to execute and have no more 5 p.m. dinner panic, highly recommend come and joining us for that class. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I feel like I've gotten some good tips from you guys. Sophie, I'm super curious though. For your ferments, what's your favorite ferment to pair with beef? And then what's your favorite ferment to pair with chicken?
Ooh, it depends on the spices, but I love the Napa cabbage. That seems to do, I think that covers 50% of our proteins, the Napa cabbage kimchi. And then we also do a kraut chi. So literally using the same seasonings, I'll do a cabbage, just a regular head of cabbage. I say American, but it is just a regular.
The
Asian
non-Napa cabbage.
Right, the American one. But I love daikon. Daikon kimchi is my favorite. You could slice it thin and it gets a little mushy, but if you have it cubed, which I love, and you could also pickle it, those are the then it's crunchy. And that goes with a lot of the savory, the really garlicky chicken wings with the soy sauce.
Ooh, that does sound good. Yeah.
Pickled daikon.
I know that sounds really good. I don't use daikon very often. And then when I remember it, I'm like, oh, why haven't I? I actually really enjoy the daikon.
I do too. And it's my favorite thing to plant in the ground, especially for new garden areas. And then we have so much of it. I have like 5-6 different ways to do daikon.
Ooh,
it's
very fun. That is fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Rachel, what's your fast and dirty side dish?
Fast and dirty. Oh, for me, are you talking vegetable? Are you talking starch? What are we talking here?
Well, whatever, just a side dish, babe.
I have to say roasted vegetables. I wish my mom's a great cook, but man, I don't know why she didn't roast vegetables. She always steamed stuff. Ugh. And anyhow, roasted vegetables and whatever I have in the fridge or, whatever's coming out of the garden, you just throw it in there, a little olive oil, a little salt, pepper, and roast it. And I have to say, I always, back to the whole cooking rice thing, I always double when I cook rice. So I have extra in the fridge so I can always make fried rice.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of having your rice cooked ahead of time and then cooling it down, that's where it actually creates resistant starch. Even if you reheat it after it's been cooked and cooled and then you reheat it, then it still has the resistant starch. So if you are being conscious of carbs because of insulin resistance or, blood sugar elevation, that type of thing, cooking it ahead of time is actually healthier. So, yes.
Same applies for potatoes too.
It does. Yeah. I thought that was fascinating. I didn't know that. And when I learned that, I'm like, what? Cooking ahead and leftovers is healthier?
Yeah. See, that's why people need to, that drives me crazy. People don't like leftovers. And I'm like, they're so good.
Well, and I love just using them different components to make a whole different meal.
Yes.
That, is, if you're going to cook once, you might as well cook double or triple. So then you have it to make more meals off of it.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing, though, with leftovers is a lot of people don't know how to reheat food when it's already been cooked. They're used to the microwave. And honestly, reheating food in the microwave, oftentimes it's uneven. It dries out. It gets rubbery in texture. If you don't know how to reheat food to make it taste good or to reuse it and create a new recipe from it, I see why people don't really like leftovers. And it's funny because that's actually one of the lessons that we have in the kitchen course is walking people how to do that, what is the best way to reheat these different things so that they do still taste good, because leftovers don't have to taste They can be
Exactly.
really, really good. And they can be one of your best friends, to Rachel, to your point, to executing dinner throughout the week and not having to start all the way over from scratch, essentially every single night.
Right. You're like already halfway to 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole microwave thing, our microwave died, I don't know, 6 years ago. And I never replaced it. And we honestly haven't missed it. I reheat everything. I have that toaster oven convection behind me for small stuff, like just for lunch. And just the texture is so much better than putting it in a microwave or even just doing it in your cast iron on the stove.
Yeah. Like if you've reheated pizza in a microwave versus in the toaster oven, way different texture. The microwave is so
makes it mush.
rubbery.
It's all soggy.
It's just, it's not good at all. But yeah, the toaster oven's great.
Yeah. Or the air fryer, if you have an air fryer, or even the Instapot. Like, there's so many ways that you can quickly reheat food, and the texture is so greatly improved in comparison to the microwave. Like, it tastes like you just took it out of the oven again in a lot of instances, even if it's not the oven that you're pulling it out of. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, ladies. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been very fun.
Well, as you've heard today, even those of us who have been cooking from scratch for years still juggle busy schedule, kids, and very long to-do lists. But the key is not perfection, amen. It's having a few foundational skills and systems that make dinner doable even on the hardest days. So if you are ready to stop that dreaded 5 p.m. dinner panic and put these skills into practice in your own kitchen, I would love for you to join me for the free live training that I'm doing on September 8th. From Scratch Cooking Made Easy. In just 1 hour, I'm going to show you how to fix the 3 biggest mistakes that keep you stuck in kitchen chaos, the 3 essential systems that will save you hours every week, how to stock a real food pantry that works with any meal, and how to cook confidently even when life is busy. It's completely free, so go to melissaknorris.com/kitchen and save your spot today. And until next week, blessings and mason jars for now.